when we speak of the corporate media trying to attribute Donald Trump's success to something other than the fact that he essentially is simply the providing the subtext as opposed to the text of the Republican project, it's fascinating to watch this, to read this piece by Juan Williams. I guess he's writing in The Hill. I don't know if he's still a Fox News contributor, but it seems like he's starting to think about retirement now. He's talking about the Tea Party and how they could lose the Senate for the Republicans. But, you know, again, I got news for Juan Williams. And there's a reason why you haven't heard the word Tea Party. I haven't heard the word Tea Party in terms of this presidential election anymore. Have you? It's because people realize the Tea Party is just simply another name for the Republican base. So what he's really saying is that the Republicans could lose the Senate for the Republicans.
Well, you know, I have a theory here. When the Koch brothers made this grand announcement at the beginning of the year that they're putting out, you know, what is it, $889 million into this 2016
Let's be honest,
election.
It's $1 billion. It's $1 billion.
But see, I think what most people automatically assume when they hear that is that this money is going to go to the GOP presidential candidate. But see, I don't think so. They're obviously going to give some to this guy. But that $1 billion is going to be used to preserve these 24 Senate seats that the Republicans have up for bids in this coming election. Now, Democrats only have to defend 10. Republicans have to defend 24. So we're talking about a potential filibuster-proof majority for Democrats in the Senate if they can pull out victory in 2016. And Republicans, in this case, you know, Juan Williams says the Tea Party could cost them. I don't think so, because I think that $1 billion in Koch money is going to be enough to preserve these seats, because Republicans are not playing the short game. They're not playing for the presidency. You know, right now polls show that whether it's Bernie or Hillary, whoever's the Democratic candidate would win if the election were held today. But those Senate seats and those House seats that are up for re-election, those are fair game, and that is the game of the Republicans. You can make a Democratic president completely impotent, as we've seen with Obama, if you can control both houses of Congress, or sometimes even just one house of Congress. You can do that, and I think that is the game that the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson and Alec are really playing towards. Is they want those houses. The White House is less important than the Senate and House when it comes to their ultimate goals for the country.
Well, I think you all. I mean, I would add to that. I mean, I think that analysis is correct. I mean, I think there's one part which I think sort of dovetails with what you're saying. I think part of it is not just that they don't see it as important. I think they know that it's largely a lost cause. I mean, if you remember that rebuttal, or one of the rebuttals that was given to the Obama, I think it was 2010, maybe it was 2011 State of the Union address, where Michelle Bachmann had her own rebuttal for the Tea Party. And CNN had, for some reason, had decided they were going to co-sponsor it. And they had set up their camera, but she was also being videotaped, or I should say with a live feed, to a Tea Party Express closed circuit TV. So there were two cameras in front of her. And she decided to speak directly to the camera that was going to the live feed of the Tea Party Express. And so for the rest of the country that was watching her address on the CNN camera, it looked like she was clinically insane. And I think the lesson here is that you cannot speak to both the Republican base and the rest of the country simultaneously without looking insane to one of those constituencies. You can't speak to both of them at the same time. It is physically, sort of, I guess, rhetorically, intellectually, in any way impossible. And so I think there's an awareness, like you say, that the presidency is probably out of reach. And frankly, I'm not convinced that's not why you get the sort of, you know, we're told that this is a deep bench and whatnot. These are all B-level, B-grade candidates, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, half of them are indicted, it seems like. The other half can't even stake out a position where they don't have to sort of constantly follow Donald Trump around as if they're, holding his coat, waiting for him to decide he's just too bored with the whole thing. It's an embarrassment in terms of these guys being, the varsity team. We're watching the JV team at best. But be that as it may, I think you're right about that. Although I will say this, the danger that they have in terms of the Republicans have in terms of trying to protect these seats is that this is a presidential year election. We know that Democratic voters, that liberal-leaning people, that left-leaning people, for whatever reason, and we could spend an entire hour talking about this, Farron, do not come out with the same fervor on the off-year elections as the Republican base, because the Republican base thinks they're under attack from gay Muslims who want to take all their money and their guns and disparage God. And so they've got to get out there and vote for the looniest of the loon in the off years. But during the presidential elections, normal people engage in politics. It would be nice if they did that more, but normal people come out, engage in politics. And when normal people engage in politics and come out to vote, Republicans lose on a national level. And even in these red states, even in these places where there may be an opportunity for a red state Republican senatorial candidate to win, if there is a wave election, which comes from having an incredibly strong candidate on the top of the ticket, these senators are going to get wiped out. And so the Koch brothers are playing both an offensive and defensive game. They will spend money in the presidential elections. You're right. I don't think the vast majority of it's going to go there, but they'll spend it in there to hold off, to somehow mitigate a potential wave. Because if you put up, I don't care if it's Donald Trump or Jeb Bush against Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, I got news for you. The Republican candidate's going to lose. That goes with Scott Walker. That goes with Ted Cruz. I could go all the way down. We don't have enough time to list off all the Republican presidential candidates.
But let me point this out, though, just real quick. Trump has said himself he wants to put in $1 billion of his own money into this election. And if he were to do that, if he's the candidate, that would free up the $1 billion in Koch money to exclusively go to those House and Senate races. And that is exactly what they want.